My father passed away recently, and I want to share with you what I discovered in the aftermath that changed how I see myself and every man that may be carrying some wound he didn't choose. And I need to share something I wasn't prepared for. This may come as a surprise to some of you, but this grief or the grief wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part of losing my father was realizing that I had inherited his trauma that made me act more like him. And today, we're taking action to understand and to take a step to eradicate a symptom of generational trauma. So let's do this. I realized that the coldness, the distance, the way I could shut down an entire room without saying a word, that was my dad's fingerprint on my life. And I didn't even see it until he was gone. If you're a man watching this and you've ever wondered why you reacted the way you do, why you sort of shut down, why you sedate, why you medicate, why you can't seem to break a pattern that you hate, stay right here because this is for you and it's going to help you. A Cleveland clinical group published an article recently that said something that got my attention. It said, we can carry the experiences from previous generations, like family baggage and trauma, but healing is possible. A forensic specialist, Dr. Michelle Riley Sorrell, said a statement in an article about generational trauma. She said, these are overwhelmingly negative experiences that cause a ripple effect passed down in our family. You hear that? A ripple effect. It's not just something your dad did to you. It's something his dad may have done to him, and his dad's dad did before that. And so it moves to a family like water in an undercurrent or strong tide. And most men never even realize this until the current pulls them under and buries them beneath the symptoms of this trauma. I didn't. I didn't. And so what I discovered, though, in the days after my father's death was befoggling to me because it's the thing nobody warned you about. And so I sat down and I began analyzing his past. And I realized I didn't just lose him, I found him in myself. And I really started noticing things the way I could be in a room full of people and feel absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. The way my kids would come to me with something on their heart and I'd give them nothing in return. That was positive anyway. No response was, it was always negative and critical. Like that was good enough for them. Like, well, that was fathering. It wasn't. And I know now that it wasn't. But I couldn't stop doing it because it was the only language I had. And when I look back, my father never gave me positive guidance. And as a matter of fact, he was not present in my life. What he gave me was cold and distant. He was emotionally empty with me. I'd sit for hours wondering why he didn't love me. When he was around, it felt like he was a monster that was wearing his clothes. And I had become the same fearful monster to my boys and my family. That's the part that wrecked me, not his death. As I kept meditating and reflecting, I saw my father as a womanizer, an adulteress, an abuser, and a cheat. He cheated on my mother, not once, not in secret. It was a clear pattern that was out of control. He had relationships with other women that I didn't understand as a boy, but I could feel the damage it caused. I could feel it in my mother's silence. I could feel it in the air in our house. And all I wanted was one thing from my dad. You know what I wanted from him? You guessed it. Not discipline, not money, not toughness. I wanted him to look me in the eye and say, I'm proud of you, son. 5 words. But that's not all. I wanted 3 other words that every son, every child needs to hear from their father. I love you. I never got them. And here's what I've come to understand. Before you think this is my pity party and I'm just going to keep talking bad about my father, right? This is what I realized. My father probably never got those words either. He never talked about his childhood. Never. So I don't know. Maybe he had the same trauma. But the math doesn't work any other way. You don't become a man that cold unless cold was done to you first. You don't chase women like that unless you're starving for something you never got at home, starting when you were a child. You see, he was carrying a ripple he never named. And because he never named it, he handed it to me. My father was not a nurturing man. He was cold and emotionally empty. If he needed, if you needed comfort from him, you learned to live without it. He cheated on my mother. He womanized, always over medicating with drugs and alcohol and promiscuous sex. And as a young boy, I couldn't process this. I just knew something was broken in our house and nobody was fixing it. Nobody cared. But after he died, I started reflecting hard. And I realized something I wasn't ready for. I had inherited his brokenness. Not his habits, not exactly, but his wounds. The way he disconnected, the way he performed instead of connected, the way he survived instead of healed. I think my father experienced things as a child he never talked about. He was hurt. And as you know, hurt people hurt people. And now I really want to take a moment and get honest about something. And I'm telling you this because I believe some of you are living in it right now, and you think you're the only one. As a boy, I had a desperate biological need for love, for approval, for protection from adults around me. And somewhere, I don't know exactly when or where, but I got the message that sex was the price. That sexual behavior was the price for admission for affection, for likability, everybody, for the purpose of being a chosen person. I accepted that like a rule of survival. So when I got older and a woman was kind to me, I didn't know what to do with that kindness. It kind of sort of confused me, and it didn't feel safe, especially from the opposite sex, another man. But flirting, I did understand. To charm another woman, I did understand because it had, I had learned the wrong way of acquiring what I thought was love. I learned that if you can make someone want you, at least you're not invisible. At least you exist, right? I chose charm. I used charm like armor. If I could please someone immediately, make them smile, make them feel something, I could protect myself from the one feeling I couldn't survive, being rejected, being unloved, being nothing. I didn't know how to receive true love when it was given to me. Yeah. And I didn't even know this trauma, this symptom was acting out in my life for many years, even after I got married. That's the thing about generational trauma that I want to bring to the forefront today. It doesn't ask your permission. It just becomes you until one day you look up and you realize you're living your father's life in your own body. And a lot of guys have great stories about their father. I realized that, but I didn't, unfortunately, I didn't have that. And I'm not telling you this because I've got it all figured out now. I don't. I'm telling you this because I don't have it all figured out. And guess what? I'm 68 years old, soon to be 69 years old. And you know, I'm not a doctor, counselor, pastor, but I think that where this is where the healing starts with a man who's willing to say, I don't have it under control. And then there's the layer of this all I didn't ask for. I lived my whole life in a space that doesn't have a home. What do I mean by that? I'm too black to be accepted by a white culture, and I'm too light to be fully accepted by my black culture. So growing up and living this life, my worth and acceptance from other nationalities has always been misunderstood and a big challenge for me. It's a very lonely life when your identity, yourself, your very self feels like it has no landing place at all. So where do you go for approval? Where does a man turn when he doesn't belong anywhere? A lot of us turn to what we learned in childhood. We perform, we charm, we seek, we chase the feeling of being chosen because we've never felt like we belonged. Who am I talking to here today? Somebody's listening, and I know you're fitting this. You're hearing this. You're picking up what I'm putting down. Let me say something directly to you as a man. This is not your fault. You didn't choose your father's wounds. You didn't choose the blueprint he handed you. You didn't choose the pattern, the survival patterns that you're dealing with that were burned into your nervous system before you had words for them. You inherited them. And of course, that's real, but inheriting a wound is not the same as causing the wound. Some of you need to hear that today because you've been carrying shame for something that was done to you. And shame is the world's worst healer. It doesn't fix anything. It just buries the wound deeper and deeper. And so Here's where faith meets the fight today. I'm a man of God, a man of faith. And the Bible is full of men who struggled with identity, men who sought love in all the wrong places, men who fell and fell hard. Guys like Samson, King David, King Solomon. And you know what God never did? He never said, "You're too broken to belong to me." He said, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." He said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew who you were. I knew you." Your true identity is not what your father gave you. It's not what your trauma taught you. It's not what your culture assigned you. Your true identity is who God says you are. And until you settle that in your soul, not just your head, every other identity you experience will feel like wearing somebody else's clothes. It kind of fits, it kind of doesn't fit, right? And you will always be uncomfortable. And now comes the hardest part, forgiveness. Not just forgiving your father. Most of us can get there eventually, especially after they're gone, right? You can begin to see the wounded boy inside the cold man, the flirtatious man, the charmer, the chaser. I'm talking about forgiving yourself for the years you spent acting out a script you didn't write, for the relationships you may have damaged, for the patterns you couldn't break, no matter how hard you prayed. Hear me. You didn't know. You were surviving with the only tools you had. And God's not sitting up there keeping score of your failures anyway. He's keeping track of your heart. So here's what I want you to do tonight. Not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. And I'm not going to give you a list of things. Just one step. I know some of y'all give a man 5 steps and he'll do 3 of them wrong and blame God for the other 2. Firstly, I want you to get still somewhere. And I want you to sit down and name it. Name the wound you inherited. Name the thing that you suffered. Name the pattern you've been surviving on. What do I mean? I hear you. What do I mean? I mean, say it out loud to God, to an empty room tonight. The specific wound you've been pretending isn't there. Okay. I want to give you some examples because name it sounds simple until you're sitting there in the dark and you don't know where to start, right? So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Example 1, a man sits down tonight and says, "I flirt with every woman who's kind to me because I'm terrified of being invisible." That's not confidence. That's survival. Let's see. Example 2. A man says, "My father never once told me he was proud of me, and I've spent my whole life trying to make other men fill that seat." Example 3. A man says, "I don't know how to be warmly loving to my kids because nobody was warm to me, and I'm afraid I'm passing that problem on." That's naming it. You don't have to fix it tonight. You don't need a 5-step program. You just need to stop pretending the wound isn't there. That's all. Because you cannot heal what you will not acknowledge. Write it down, say it out loud, take it to God. Because He's been waiting longer than you know to hear you say it. You know, the Bible says in James 5:16, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. I want to conversate with you. I want to pray with you. And if you want a place to work through with other men who get it, I want to invite you to my Zoom call. Links in the bottom description below. Join me, it's free. But it's going to take courage to join. Again, I want you to know if this video spoke to you today, I believe it did. Do me a favor. Subscribe, share this video with one man who needs to hear it. Drop some prayer hands, email emoji in the comments for me so I know you're out there fighting. And if you're in a crisis right now, dial 988 and talk to someone. It's free, it's confidential, and it's not weakness, it's wisdom. And before we go, I want you to remember this. You are not alone. You're not broken, you're wounded, and wounds can heal. And you will never walk alone again. This is Rescue the One Initiative. My name is William Gill, and I know for sure you are worth rescuing. See you in the next video.